that 2001 offseason, we had our eyes on a couple of different players. In the second round, we had our eyes on an offensive lineman, Matt Light from Purdue. And we were getting ready to pick that year at number 50 in the second round. And right ahead of us at 49 was the New York Jets. Right around pick 46 or 47, I ended up picking up the phone and called Matt Light to check and see where things were. He goes, well, I'm actually on the phone with the New York Jets right now. I think they're getting ready to pick me in a couple of picks. And at that moment, I'm looking at Belichick next to me saying, he's on the phone with the Jets. Hang up with the Light. I look at Bill. He looks at me. We know what we're thinking. I jump on the phone and call Matt Millen, general manager of the Detroit Lions, and they had the pick number 48, which was right ahead of the Jets. So call Matt Millen and say, hey, Matt, what's it going to take to move up 2 spots from our 50 to your 48? And he said, well, it'll take about a 6th rounder. And Bill and I look at each other to give each other the kind of the heads up. Yeah, let's do this thing. We do the deal, call Matt Light back, get him on the phone. So we just executed a trade. We're now at the Lions pick. We're on the clock. We just picked you. You're now a New England Patriot. It was probably one of the most fun and exciting picks I've been a part of, and bits of action, because it was a more opportunity to go against the Jets when I was a Patriot and enjoy beating the Jets. Matt went on to be a 3-time Super Bowl champ, 3-time Pro Bowler, and truthfully was one of the most important reasons we had such a good locker room leadership.
And we are pleased to be joined by Matt Light and the man who brought him to New England, Scott Pioli, who, of course, has shared that great draft story about Matt Light back in the day. Matt, take us back 20 years now, 2001 draft. You're sitting there midway through the second round. How did it all unfold?
Well, it's a little strange. I'm in a country bar in West Lafayette, Indiana. You know, there were a number of guys getting drafted that year, and I'm trying to figure out what's happened. I'd never seen a draft in my life, and I get a phone call from some guy named Pioli, and he says, hey, are you talking to anybody? I said, yeah, I'm actually talking to some folks with the Jets. He goes, well, don't worry about going back to them. We're going to select you. And I'm thinking, well, I kind of should go back and say something, but I don't know how to play this game. So, all right, I'll hold on. Hey, check out the screen. You're going to see your name coming across the screen. And it did, and I didn't think much of it. Of course, I didn't realize there was a major rivalry, apparently, between the Jets and the Patriots and this whole draft thing. And well, Scott knows the details of what went on behind the scenes, but it was pretty interesting from my point of view.
Scott, was that the only time that sort of thing worked, or were there a handful of these stories for you?
Well, this was the most important one because there were things like that happened a little bit, but Matt was too good of a player, and he was so critical to our success. We knew that we wanted him. So to us, that was probably the biggest situation like that was such a coup, because it was Matt Light.
Scott, you knew what kind of a special player you had on your hands. Did you have any idea what kind of a special prankster that you brought into the locker room there in New England?
Yeah, well, you know, I got to see Matt up and close in practice during his senior year. He was there with Drew Brees and a couple other guys, actually 4 other guys that ended up playing for us at a different time. But so I got to see Matt in practice, and I heard a little bit about his sense of humor. I saw some of it in practice. But, you know, people talk about the Patriots sometime and how there's no fun. What they don't see is it is time to work when it's time to work. But a guy like Matt Light really did some incredible things. Had one of the best pranksters I've ever been around. He actually got me one time. I won't get into that story about that call from Hawaii, Matt, where you actually somehow coded Bill Belichick's phone into your phone, and I thought it was Bill calling me. But, you know, Matt has quite a few really, really good pranks that he pulled on people. I don't know, Matt, do you want to share one of those with the folks? I mean, maybe it's the one about the buzzer on Bill's mouse. I mean, I don't know. You got a load of them.
I mean, we did. We actually did have fun, and it came in spurts, and we tried to, you know, look, in comedy, timing is everything, right? So for 99% of the time, it would have been poor taste to try to do anything comical. But for that 1% that we could sneak it in, we took full advantage of it. And we did things like, you know, remove guys' vehicles from, you know, certain places and put them in other places. And that was always fun to see when a guy's vehicle was up on blocks or sitting up on top of a hill somewhere where it shouldn't be. Messing with coaches. I can remember taking Billy O'Brien and getting the key to his hotel room. And I put Matt Castle trading cards in every thing that he owned, in the jacket that he wore to the stadium on game day, in his like little makeup bag, if that's what you call it for guys like Billy, underneath this pillow. I mean, we had a lot of fun when we could.
I heard you may have overstepped it just a touch with Coach Belichick one time. How did that go down?
Yeah, not good. Matter of fact, my wife told me every time that I had one of these epic ideas to mess with Coach Belichick, she said, "You're going to get fired. Don't do it." And I'm sure that he wanted to fire me a few times, but yeah, I remember he came up to me and he said, "Look, Light, you ever come in my office again and you're done. You're gone." And I'm like, all right, maybe I went a little too far in that one. But yeah, shocking remotes, messing with him at times, having him pay for tabs for people that he really shouldn't have had to do. I mean, we did it all.
That's great stuff. And won 3 Super Bowls, you and Scott together there with the New England Patriots. And you were drafted, Matt, a year after Tom Brady. You've been retired for a decade, yet Brady's still leading his team to titles. Everybody has their own opinions on how he's been able to do it. How do you explain it?
Well, listen, for one thing, there's guys like us that get hit on every single play. And then there's the reality of quarterbacks. I mean, let's just keep it real here, okay? They don't get touched very often anymore. So while they don't get hit as much as we do, there is the reality of a guy like Tom Brady, who has not only stuck around for as long as he has, but he's done it at the highest level. Now, you can read the cookbooks, you can read all the self-healing things that he does, but at the end of the day, Tom Brady is one of the most competitive people on planet Earth. You can sum it all up by saying that whatever he has to do, he's going to do it. And in reality, most of us on planet Earth, we like to sleep in every now and then. We like to indulge with, whatever it is, ice cream or some dessert. Tommy doesn't do any of that. So you got to give, respect where it's due. He's earned it. And there's a reason why he's as good as he is, because he wants it.
Matt, I can relate to the ice cream story, that's for sure. Anyway, so this year is kind of interesting for the Patriots because take it back 20 years. It's not exactly the same, but there are some similarities. Matt, when you arrived, Drew Bledsoe was the incumbent. Brady was the guy that the year before had been the number 4 quarterback, young quarterback, inexperienced. The Patriots this year have a similar situation, but again, different. They've got the veteran, they've got the incumbent in Cam Newton coming back. They've got the young guy, Mac Jones. And just kind of take us behind the scenes a little bit, Matt. When you are a veteran player and you've got to protect a quarterback, and as you know, some players have loyalties to the personalities or the individuals. How difficult is it for an offensive lineman when you've got an incumbent quarterback that you have to protect, but then you may be transitioning to Mac Jones again, where you've got to have divided loyalties? Or is there such thing as divided loyalties to a teammate that's pulling the trigger at quarterback?
Yeah, part of it, and Scott, you realize this, that the system in New England negates some of that stuff, right? Because that mentality of do your job, don't worry about the hype, ignore the noise, right? Those 4 points on the door going in and the 4 points on the door going out. Do your job, work hard, be attentive, put the team first. Look, it's been a decade since I've been there and I can still rattle them off because that is the culture, right? But it doesn't do everything. Look, part of it is the fact that when you have a young quarterback, you have a veteran quarterback, you deal with what the veteran quarterback does because that's what he does. He's a starter for a reason. But when the competition comes in, you got a young guy, that's where the patience, especially as an offensive lineman, you have to be patient with a young quarterback. You want to understand the fact that he's not going to get it right all the time. I mean, that goes for everybody, but especially a young quarterback. So I don't think the linemen are going to really worry about who the ultimate starter is. They're going to put the faith in the fact that Bill Belichick will make the right decision on that one. But what they're going to have to do is if they have a young quarterback who is taking the helm, have patience with him.
Matt, you wore that Patriots jersey for 11 seasons. You're wearing a different jersey now. Tell us what you and some other NFL stars are doing with Lowe's this season.
Lowe's is just launching this 100 hometown projects, right? And I'm on the home team, and there's several other athletes, but 36 states and over 2,000 entries where Lowe's are going to make an impact on these 100 hometown projects. We're kicking it off. There's a bridge behind me, if you can even see it in this shot. but we're building it for the Light Foundation with Lowe's and their team and their support. We're building a 40-foot covered bridge with 16 youth from around the Ohio area and one from Mansfield, Massachusetts. So, hats off to Lowe's and all that they do for us and their volunteers.
Matt, Scott, thanks for coming on with us and reliving some of those great stories and pranks that Mr. Light pulled off back in the day, including some on Scott Pioli. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
New England Patriots beginning the season home against the Dolphins, but the one everybody can't wait for. Week 4, Tom Brady returns to Gillette Stadium. The Buccaneers, the defending champs, in town Week 4, early October.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.